Okay, today we have Terry Wakefield here with us, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the impacts of illness on families. Mom, why don't you go ahead and start with who you are, who Justin is, and what happened to him, and where he is now.
Okay, my name is Terry Wakefield, 49. My son, Justin Wakefield, was involved in a car accident back in 2007, May 21st. He had a traumatic brain injury and was in a coma for 21 days. And then he is now, he's gone through all kinds of rehab, but is still in rehab full-time in a facility called Neurorestorative in Lexington, Kentucky.
Okay. Can you talk about how Justin's brain injury has impacted our family financially, like right after the accident as well as today?
Financially at first, there wasn't, insurance picked up everything. We were very blessed to have great insurance. And we also had a tremendous community support where they raised over between $45,000 and $50,000 to help offset Justin's medical expenses. He spent 9 months in a facility called Center for Neural Skills, where it was 100% paid. All we had to do was get him there, and the monies that were raised allowed us to go and visit him once a month while he was there. Other than that, he's on what's called Kentucky has a traumatic brain injury waiver that now pays for his residence. But that does not include that pays for his therapies, not his residential pays, which is an additional money plus expenses every month. He is on disability, where he gets a disability check, but always, it's never enough. We always offset anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a year for his therapies and care.
Before we go on, can you tell us a little bit more about the disabilities that Justin has?
Justin, he was a right frontal lobe injury, so he's short-term memory is gone, pretty much. He has some long-term memory, and his impulse control is gone. He also has the left side, both his arm and his leg are not fully restored, the use of them. It's called left neglect because he has to, the critical thinking and the brain, retrain his brain to use those two extremities on the left side, and he never has really regained that. So he's been in physical therapy, speech therapy, and also OT multiple times a week, still trying to retrain that and get that function back.
Okay. How has Justin's brain injury impacted our family dynamic and how we do things as a family?
As far as, I think it's affected every minute of our family life. Justin has now become a 2-pack a day smoker, or 2-pack a week, smoker, and his ability to stay in and keep up with the family physically is not, due to the injury, he can't go to, walking is an issue, he gets tired easy, and I guess there's some resentment with my second son, so they don't always get along. So there's struggles there, and he really is, his heightened sense of anxiety around crowds of people. He gets to the point where he has to leave the room because he starts having a panic attack being around too many people. And that has just not gotten any better since day one, since the accident.
Makes things a lot harder to even go to church. because you
Right.
can't really sit through even a church ceremony without having to get up and go smoke, or he's too anxious because there's too many people around.
Exactly.
So obviously there's a lot of emotional ties surrounding this, considering Justin was normal before his accident, which can be a lot different than other chronic illnesses or even other illnesses that occur. So emotionally, how has having a child with a brain injury impacted you? Obviously there's that initial sadness because you don't know what's going to happen, but now 10 years later, what are the main emotions that you feel that have stuck with you and impacted you personally?
10 years later, it's almost like a death. The person that my son was before the wreck and the person that he is now are two different people. I think nobody understands when they say there might be personality differences. It's truly a totally different set of, he's a different person than he was before the wreck, and I think that's one of the hardest things. But emotionally, my hardest thing is letting go of who I wanted him to be and what my plans I thought he was going to achieve in his young life, and my hopes and dreams for a normal family, a bride, a wedding, grandkids. Those are, I don't see those in the foreseeable future for him now, and that's sad. Heartbreaking.
Yeah. What would you say has been the biggest impact or the hardest thing to deal with being a mother of a child and now an adult with a traumatic brain injury?
I think the hardest thing that we've had to deal with Justin has been his anger, his resentment to his dad and I being the blame and the brunt for all that's gone wrong in his life. He feels that because we are his guardians, we are holding him back. He is stuck in the 17 to the 19-year-old mind frame, which is what he was. He was 18 when he had the accident, and he's never got out of that selfish paths or that immaturity of that 17 to 18-year-old boy that, his parents are to blame for everything. And that's the biggest struggle today, is that he does not accept his own deficits and his own responsibility for what's happened in his life, but it's still mom and dad's fault.
Do you think it's even harder to accept who he is today? Because I know that's one of the things I struggle with the most, is that for the longest time we thought he was going to be better. He was going to turn into Justin again, and we haven't seen that. Do you think that's a bigger struggle, or?
I think accepting who he is today definitely has been my biggest struggle versus where I thought he was going and what I wanted from him and his life. He was a tremendous artist. He does have some of those skills left, but he was going places with his art, and it's just he's just not who I thought and wanted him to be. And like I said, it is like a death and a rebirth, and I struggle every day, every time I see him, and I'm still angry, and I know he can't help it, but I honestly, sometimes through this process, it's hard to be his mom now, being the guardian and have to watch everything he does, when he takes his medicine, when he does this, when he does that, and to love him as my son. And that's a big struggle too, is to remember that he's still my son. So.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have. Thank you for being so open and honest and sharing, because it is a very personal thing that not a lot of people experience, or this is a unique experience that people don't and hopefully will never experience in their lives. And just appreciate you taking the time to do that.
No problem.